How to repair small damage on a board. That's what I'm going to be doing today. This damage is really super tiny, and the thing is, I could probably just put some glue on there, and I'm going to do just that plus a set more. The usual way I like to repair this damage is to sand around just a very light dome, and to do 3 layers of carbon fiber, small the first, and the medium, and then large, to where it balances out so there's very little sanding. And what that does, when this is dome sanded, the layers of carbon kind of reinforce the edge. If I was able to use glue up to here, it could re-crack. Or if I put carbon without a sanded edge like this, there would be a big lip. And then when I sand it down, all that lip edge would go to not being helpful at all. It wouldn't hold. So if I make it kind of a dome and then do, you know, carbon, 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 it makes a natural finished result. The theory I have with a small repair is if this is the material, and this is amplified, so this would be a smaller gap, but a thin layer of whether carbon, wood, or glass, if I just shove some glue underneath there, the chance of it re-cracking here is high. If I did layers of carbon or fiberglass around the top, it would hold, but if it's, actually they'd be fine on the top of the board, but on the bottom of the board, it has a lot of drag here, so I could sand to make a dome, and that would be okay, but then it still is not as hydrodynamically efficient. The idea of sanding a dome after the crack, so it kind of makes a divot, is now I can do different layers of lengths of fiberglass or carbon, and the sanding will be much faster and just kind of to smooth it out. And the idea of this being angled is now I have a connection between this layer and this layer. So if I just went here, and if there's a big hole in it like this, I could do layers of carbon here, which would fill the gap, but then this is not a very strong bond. And again, if I go over, then it would be hydrodynamically inefficient with layers. Same thing with this. If it's bigger, then I just go this with layers or filler, and then the final sanding will be much faster. Probably just go over a little bit and then sand, and it'll be strong, light, and hydrodynamically efficient. Yeah, that's the theory to this. What I found with this density of weave with carbon fiber, when I do small circles, it just all comes apart. It's just not fine enough for that. So I think I'm going to do a hybrid repair for today. I'm going to sand it out. I'm also going to try to lift this up a little bit I can. Anyway, sand it out, get that dome really light. I'm going to use JB Weld. I'm going to cut out fibers of carbon fiber. JB Weld's already quite strong, but with added carbon fibers, it'll be quite strong. It's already gray, so I don't have to worry about pigment or anything else like that. It'll look good, and it'll be done fast with one coat. I'll probably sand afterwards, but I'll try to see if I can level it out with some wax paper also. So maybe it'll be a very minimal, fast repair, and yeah, let's get to it. So first up, I just have X-Acto blade. I'm going to see if I can pry this back up a little bit before I start to sand. A neutral point might be less work overall. There we go. At least the same level. Now it's less like this and more leveled out. And I don't want any stray sanding or stray glue to get further out than I need to, so I'm going to go just as far as I want the repair to go. There we go. And it's okay if I do a couple layers of blue, just extra protection, because the rest of the board around here is looking nice, so I don't want to have to repair any more than I have to. Starting out with 40 grit. Make the dome. Area's all sanded, and I have a little bit of a dome. Just wipe it with some denatured alcohol. Get all the dust marks off, and if there's any grease or anything on there, that'll come off nice and clean. I want the fibers long enough that they'll provide really good crack resistance, but also not too long that they'll just be bending straight across. So I've decided about this length will be good. And that length should give me a good fiber distance and help reduce or remove the chance of it cracking in the future in that same spot. Get out just a little bit of JB Weld, 1-to-1 ratio. don't need a lot. I'm going to mix these together before I mix it with the carbon fiber. This is very thick, and usually to mix with carbon fiber and fiberglass, you want the epoxy or the resin to be more viscous or more liquidy. And this is quite thick, and that looks good. So now I'm going to combine all of these fibers. Mix it in really good. I've got all the fibers mixed up. I'm just going to scrape a little extra here to get a good amount of glue or JB Weld right on the surface. It appears the carbon fiber has absorbed most of the glue, and I still want to get a good coating down. Squish the fibers in. There we go, that's sticking now. Nice good coating down. And let's get some fiber on top. I'm going to use some wax paper to get pressure it down, and also flatten out a little bit. The excess can just go over the tape and be sanded later. Nice, I've got this disc now. I'm just going to put it right in the center and put some weight on here. And that'll help just to make sure it spreads out evenly, has nice good pressure as it cures. I will come back to this later tonight or tomorrow to sand and get it ready for the water. So this is the excess carbon fiber, and this is very, very thin fibers, but it's actually quite strong. Just another testament where it's a good idea to have fiber reinforced, because these tiny little thin layers of carbon, if it was just JB Weld, it'd crack off in a moment. But these are strong and holding. This has quite a bit of resistance force to breaking, and this is all fanned out. Once it's compressed, it becomes even stronger because all the fibers act more as a connected force rather than just individual threads. But yeah, this looks good, and it is ready to sand. Cool, let's see what we've got. Okay, let's take off the excess. I have a sharp chisel, and I just clearly see this is above, so I'm going to try to start out a little bit big and remove excess carbon on top. Go nice and slow. Make sure I'm not digging into the masking tape. Okay, I got some of that off, and now I'm going to use 80 grit. Just slowly smooth it out. That looks good with 80. I'm going to go to 150. This is now flat and even enough that I'm going to remove the masking tape. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. And I can actually see some blue masking tape underneath. Yeah. There we go. There we go. And now I have, it's kind of funny to double the masking tape down, but now I have a gap so I can see how it is flush and get it to be nice and flush, and I have nice armor here for any stray sand marks. I'm going to stay with 150 grit. It'll take a little longer than 80 grit, but I'm not going to grind into it too much. I'm going to do 240. Okay, that looks good. And the last I'm going to do 400, and I'm going to just remove this because that's the same sanding coat I use for that board to give a nice flat finish, opposing to having a shiny finish. so I can just blend them in naturally. Nice, all done. JB Weld definitely works. That's a solid repair. It's a little darker. You can use different things, water weld, epoxy, resin, but this is just a nice thing to use with JB Weld because it is easy to mix and it's not so sticky goopy. So yeah, there's a lot of different products you can use to do this repair. I would just say make sure you do the divot in, make sure it's divoted in, and then try to get just a little bit more than the layer of just build it up a little bit more so you can sand it down, but obviously the closer you can get to the divot the better because there's less sanding. But this is a nice smooth repair, it's nice and clean, and yeah, ready to get back in the water and have some fun. Like, subscribe, and share, and have a great day.